And welcome back to Sinfin, the Dugout Decisions Show.
And in today's video, we're going to be diving into the Jays' pursuits of Kyle Tucker and Bo Bichette. Yes, they're still interested in those two guys, and why they need to sign at least one of these guys this offseason. But before we get into that, make sure to like, subscribe, and leave your thoughts down below on what the Jays have done so far this offseason and what you think they should do next.
Yeah, with the reports we've been hearing, it sounds rather likely that the Blue Jays are going to sign one of these guys. And it's not what it was, where, okay, let's get both. Now it seems to be because of the Okamoto signing that they're likely going to get one of Bo or Tucker. And we just want to look at how they fit this year and next year. So, the Blue Jays were to sign Bo Bichette, I think it's a little crowded right now, Aiden. I think the infield is a lot more crowded than the outfield, at least. So what that would look like is I think an Ernie Clement comes out of the lineup because Bo
Yeah.
Bichette would likely slot at second base. I don't think he's going back to shortstop next year,
No.
especially after the knee injury. And I think that takes out Ernie Clement and also Anthony Santander from the lineup.
Yeah, and that would suck. I mean, Ernie could be a great utility player. We saw him play all over the place in 2025, right? His whole stint with the Jays. But he's a solid player. Is he that 400 average hitter and the great postseason hero that we saw? I don't know if he's going to continue that in the regular season. So honestly, I don't mind it. Let's be honest. Bo Bichette is a better stick than Ernie Clement, right? I mean, he's proven it. 300 hitter a year. He's leading the league in hits. He's a better hitter. Maybe not a better defender. Actually, for sure, he's not a better defender. But slot him in at second. And if Ernie Clement is your utility guy, that's like the greatest utility player in the league. It's interesting with Okamoto too. He said during his press conference, which they held earlier this week, that he's willing to be a utility player, right? Like we've mentioned before during our last podcast that he's played the corner infield spots. Maybe he plays left field a little bit. You can slot him out there. You won't feel comfortable with it, but he can play there. So maybe you have a situation where, say, third base, you have a bit of a platoon going. You have Addison Barger facing the righties, Okamoto faces the lefties. Maybe at shortstop, Andres Gimenez plays short when it's a righty on the mound, Ernie Clement's in there when it's a lefty on the mound, and Bo Bichette mans the second base spot. I agree, though. It's tough bringing Bo back with that loaded infield. But looking at the outfield, you got George Springer and Dalton Varsho coming off the books next year. So I think it definitely makes sense to go after Kyle Tucker.
Yeah, Dalton Varsho has been a great player with the Toronto Blue Jays. Was that trade with the Diamondbacks a little controversial? Yes, especially
Yeah.
when the Diamondbacks went to the World Series. You see Gabby Moreno, Lourdes Gurriel just hitting like crazy, but then they fell back down to earth, I think. Lourdes Gurriel tore his ACL this past year, and Gabby Moreno was in and out of the Diamondbacks lineup because of injuries as well. Dalton Varsho had a lot of injuries this past year as well, but when he played, he produced very well. And because of that hamstring injury, he couldn't field or run like he typically could. You couldn't see that 2024 Dalton Varsho in the outfield just snagging everything. He looked a little injured out there. And okay, if Dalton Varsho is a key piece for the Toronto Blue Jays, why not extend him? Well, he's a Scott Boras client, and Scott Boras rarely
Yeah.
allows his clients to sign extensions unless they ask
Yeah.
for it, and they often test free agency. So that would mean George Springer, who is now 37 years old, I believe, and Dalton Varsho would hit free agency, and that's two key outfielders, two starting outfielders for you in 2025, and presumably in 2026 just off the books. So this is where I think Kyle Tucker slots in perfectly right in that right field spot.
I'm going to say right now for people that have listened in the past, I've said I want Bo Bichette over Kyle Tucker. I'll admit I'm coming around to it a little bit. And hear me out for a second here. Bo Bichette's been with the Jays for a long time, right? Since 2019. 2016 is when he joined the organization, but 2019 is when he made his debut. If Kyle Tucker comes in here and he's with the Jays for, what is it, 8 years, maybe it's 10 years, maybe it's 12 years. I don't know. The guy is, what is he, like 29, 30 years old? He's entering his prime. Is it 8, 10 years, something like that? If he's here for that length of time, and I think the upside is there for Kyle Tucker to be a better player than Bo Bichette. There's no doubt about it. MVP candidate he is. If he's here, then he'll become that fan favorite, and I think maybe I'll tend to draw to him more than maybe even Bo. And who knows, maybe Bo goes to Philly and has a great career, and we'll wish him all the best. But you're right, especially with the guys that are coming off the books next year. I think we could admit George Springer isn't coming back. Is he going to retire? He'll be 37, turning 38 in the next offseason. Does he just retire? He's unk, he's old. Has he just had enough? Does he go to some other team and chase a ring? I don't know what the case is. Maybe the Jays aren't competitive. Who knows what it is? And Springer goes away. But if you're getting Tucker, surely he's gone. The interesting piece is Varsho, though. Because think of the Jays roster now. We have a lot of guys. Anthony Santander still on this roster. That guy's not athletic. That guy doesn't play great defense. We'll see with Okamoto. I don't know. He doesn't really look like the athletic type. I don't want to say already that he's a bad defender, but we've said he's like maybe average. I don't know. Running the bases too. Like Kirk obviously isn't a great base runner, a great defender. I'm not saying that, but base running, it's not really there. The athleticism, even with Vlad, sure, he moves okay for a big guy, but we're actually starting to shift a little bit from this defensive mindset and this athleticism to older, bigger guys that aren't moving that well. So I think that's where the value comes for Dalton Varsho. Bit of an injury plague season last year, but maybe just for the defense in center field, maybe you keep him for that. I don't know. Slot Kyle Tucker in right field, good defender, and maybe you keep Dalton Varsho in center. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, no, it sounds great, but also I think a big part of this is do center fielders last in Rogers Center. I think turf
Yeah.
takes a big toll on center fielders, outfielders, and Kevin Kiermaier said that when he came to the Toronto Blue Jays. It was a risk to play on turf all year at such an old age, but he did it and then retired the next year. So I don't know what Dalton Varsho could look like. I don't know what his health is. The Blue Jays have some options. Do they go out next year? Do they trade for a Brenton Doyle? Do they trade for?
Mm.
I think Luis Robert is even on the market. So um, those are some options there. And this is a big year for Dalton Varsho. He could either make a lot of money or if he has a very okay year, still get a solid deal, just not what he could get, especially in a lacking 2027 free agency class.
Yeah.
This is an awful free agency class next year,
Yeah.
and not to mention, I don't want to jinx it, there could be a lockout next year.
Ugh.
So with the bad free agency class, with a lockout, the opportunities are grim, and some of the best free agents next year are Jazz Chisholm, solid player. Doesn't it isn't like a top tier free agent though. It's not like I'm gonna clamor to give him $500 million. No. And then
No.
there's Taylor Ward, and oh my goodness. So it's a very grim free agency class this year, and the Toronto Blue Jays are getting $108 million off the books this year. So with George Springer gone, with Kevin Gausman gone, Jose Barrios won't leave because he loves that contract and isn't
Yeah.
opting out. But there's a lot of money coming off the books next year,
Yeah.
and man, go get Kyle Tucker. Go get Kyle Tucker. If you think the Blue Jays are going to be at 315 million dollars every year, that's not true because
Mm.
contracts always expire and money always comes off the books, and that's what's happening for the Toronto Blue Jays next year. And with a very poor free agency class next year, you got to go get Kyle Tucker. He just fits
Yeah.
best right now, fits best for the future, and fits best financially.
And the Dodgers, I think their payroll next year is going to be, I think we said off camera, what, 340 million, something like that. So we're still not even entering Dodgers territory. And what did Scott Boras say during the Okamoto press conference, jokingly, that, hey, who's got the power this offseason? Who's holding up these guys? Tucker, why are they not signing? Ross the boss. Ross the boss. He's got the power this offseason. He's getting the guys that he wants. Other teams aren't signing because they're thinking, well, we got to see, are the Jays going to make a move? So we're still not even entering Dodgers territory if we get Tucker. Let's just throw out a number. Say Tucker signs for, I don't know, 10 years, call it 350 million, 35 million a year, something like that. That brings us, like you said, to about 315 next year. We got the money. What was it? An extra 50 mil we made from that playoff run? We make another playoff run next year, make playoff runs for the next, I don't know, 7, 8 years. We can make that money back. So that's not really a concern. Going back to Varsho though, and the center fielders, specifically the center fielders, because you mentioned the guys like say Suzuki and Taylor Ward, but those aren't really center fielders. Like Trent Grisham opted back in. I think he took the qualifying offer for the Yankees, so he'll go back into the free agency pool next year. Is that really a guy we want to go after? I don't know. I mean, that seemed like an outlier year he had last year with the Yankees. Like Cedric Mullins, Victor Robles, Tyrone Taylor, Lane Thomas, some of these names, man. Like,
Oh, yeah.
I don't know what we're doing here. Tyler Wade, excuse me, is on that list. So, no diss to these guys, but that's where I think maybe the value comes in for Varsho. I say you keep him. The way I'm seeing it now is Tucker obviously slots into right field. Easy. That's your guy right field. Maybe you keep Varsho. He's your center fielder. Santander would figure to be your DH long term, right? That works out because you do
Yep.
not want to see that guy in left field. I mean, that guy is just horrible. You're talking about the turf as well. He just sucks to begin with, even if it's grass. He sucks in the outfield. So keep him at DH. Springer's gone. Barger, Schneider, these other guys can play the left field position. Maybe again, this still means that a guy like Nathan Lucas, I don't know, like a Miles Straw, maybe there's no playing time there, but maybe that turns into a trade chip in the future. So definitely go get me Kyle Tucker and put him in the outfield. It makes a lot of sense going forward. Figure it out for 2026, and then it makes sense going forward.
Yeah, I think a trade is definitely possible. There's way too many outfield options. We talked about um, how there's room for another outfielder. Yes, but there's also a lot of middling outfielders, triple A, quadruple A kind of guys. So we got Davis Schneider, Nathan Lucas, Miles Straw, who's a huge clubhouse guy. I doubt he
Yeah.
gets moved at all and has a really bad deal. But Joey Loperfido, Jonathan Clase, like man, there are a lot of just depth outfielders, and I could see a move coming. I wouldn't be
Yeah.
surprised if I don't know what we'd get. Would it be another reliever? Okay, but I think we have so many options right now. All I'm saying is we have a lot of depth outfield options, which is great. I just don't think we can go into the 2026 regular season with all of these options. So I could definitely see a trade coming. Is it tomorrow? No, it could probably it could be the last day of spring training, and this guy didn't perform well at all, and we're just going to send him away for some money or a player to be named later, something like that. But I could see a trade coming with all these depth pieces.
Yeah, and the roster's starting to fill out. Obviously, 14 years is still incredible to think about. I was just thinking about the other day, like 14 years we have Vlad, man. That's our cornerstone. So it's amazing we have him. Alejandro Kirk, just look back the other day, a 5-year, $58 million extension is what he signed before 2025. I completely forgot about that, honestly. And he had such a great contribution in 2025, especially in the playoff run. Game 162 was incredible. You have Okamoto now for 4 years who's going to fill in most likely to that third base role. Andres Jimenez is at short for a while. If you bring in Kyle Tucker and you solidify an outfield position for a couple of years, Anthony Santander as well, a couple of years more at DH, that's when the roster starts to fill out. Because again, you're losing Varsho, you're losing Springer. You have a lot of these other guys, like the Bargers of the world, like the Schneiders of the world. These are the guys that are still in arbitration. They're still earning their service time. If you get Tucker, though, that'll fill out long term on a big contract, the outfield. So it makes sense to go and do that. Looking at the pitching, though, we mentioned with all that money coming off the books, 108 million. Well, first of all, this offseason, it's Chris Bassett, it's Sir Anthony Dominguez, and it's Max Scherzer that all came off the books, right? Chris Bassett was here for 3 years with the Jays. Sure, he didn't make a start in the playoffs this past season, but he was incredible out of the pen, man. I mean, that was really fun to see. 95, 96 out of the pen, provided many innings for us. Lots of innings over the 3 years he was here. Max Scherzer did his job. Unk, 41-year-old Unk, he did his job in the 1 year he was here, but we're probably not going to see them back. So who are the starters going forward? You have Trey Savage, obviously, still has to earn some service time. He'll be here long term. Dylan Cease you have now for 7 years, and you just brought in Cody Ponce for 3 years. Kevin Gosman will be gone most likely next year. Do they bring him back? I don't know. What does a deal for him look like? He'll be 35, 36. Shane Bieber again opted in. Does he have a good year and then he earns that big bag and he's out of Toronto? I don't know. So you have those three starters. Do they maybe look at a starter? I don't know. Is it, well, we're going to hold off on Tucker because we'll still need to get another starter? Where are you at with the starters?
Yeah, yeah, and it was huge that we got Dylan Cease because without Dylan Cease right now, boy, next year's rotation, well, the year after next year's rotation, I think
Yeah.
it's 2027. Like, oh my goodness, we don't have an ace. Don't know if Trey Savage is going to turn into that. Um, because of all the innings he threw last year and don't know what his 2026 is going to look like. But that Dylan Cease signing is looking huge just because
Yeah.
you have a reliable ace for the next 7 years. We can count on this guy. He slots right at the top of the rotation. How does the rest play out? I think it's a great question, right? And for all of our minor league guys, all the guys who love watching Bison's games or New Hampshire Fisher Cats games, I think this is a big development year. Can we see Ricky T be a starter?
Mm.
If he can be a starter, he slots right into the rotation 2027. The Jays don't have to acquire anybody, and they've acquired a lot of starting pitchers over the past what 6 years. Man, Hyunjin Ryu, Robbie Ray, Kevin Gosman, just guy after
Yeah.
guy. Chris Bassett, you had to give him $66 million because you
Yeah.
can't develop a starter. Now I think is the time to develop a starting pitcher. So if a guy rises up, if Brandon Barriera comes out of nowhere and could be in the rotation for 2027, that would be huge. So that's what I'm looking at is a lovely development story. And can Johnny King come up in Double A and just
Mm.
shred? So who knows if he's in the fold in 2027, but I would like to see some of those guys develop and
Yeah.
be certainly an option for 2027.
You're right. Your guy, Alec Manoah, right? You go out there, you get his jersey after his debut, and what do you know? He has one good year, and we'll see you later. Nate Pearson, they tried that as well. Top prospect in the league, one of the top prospects in the early 2020s. That didn't work. So I don't know. Like you mentioned, some of those guys. Is it maybe a Gage Stanifer? That's another name out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
TJ Brock, that's another name out there. Like, is the jury out on Jake Bloss? Like, I don't know. He went down with, like, what was it, Tommy John or some sort of surgery. I just remember back to last spring training, he looked horrible, man. I mean, he was just awful. He had like a 10 ERA or something like that. So you're right, it would be nice if they could develop one of these guys and turn them into a starter. That's what makes it, we've talked about this a lot, that it's going to be a huge year for Ricky T. He needs to prove himself this year. I was looking back at video the other day, and we were looking at Ricky Tiedemann back in 2022 and 23, and he's in spring training, and Buck's talking on the broadcast that he might break through into the majors this year. That was in 2023. So he didn't make it in 23, didn't make it 24, didn't make it 25. We're going into 2026. The guy's still young. Granted, I think he's like 23, something like that. He's still young, but I think this is the year where it's like, all right, we've been talking about Ricky T enough. Let's get him up here. Maybe he's like a mid-season kind of guy. Bring him up in July. He's like a trade acquisition type piece, something like that. 98 out of the bullpen. Maybe you test him like that, build him up a bit because there's a lot of injury history, right? So get him comfortable in the bullpen. You're right. If he can become a starter, imagine that. Just picture that right now. Trey Savage, Ricky Tiedemann going forward in the rotation. It sounds beautiful to me.
Yeah, and I hope it's not more of a fantasy than a reality. I hope
Yeah.
this all comes to fruition. But the thing with prospects, especially pitching prospects, is you can't count on them. And
No.
that's been the case. Like, as you said, Nate Pearson, Alec Manoah, health is a big thing, and consistency. Can these guys consistently produce? And in the past, Jay's pitching prospects haven't been able to do that. So I think that's a big story for 2026, at least for myself. I'll watch a few more Bison's games than I typically do,
Yep.
especially because we live close to Buffalo. So
Yeah.
I think that's an interesting story. And yeah, if that doesn't happen, they'll have to go out and sign. Who is it next year? There could be a Corbin Burns. I think Luis Severino is a free agent starting pitcher next year. Just not great options. There's a Sonny Gray, Robbie Ray, obviously Tarek Skubal. But
Yeah.
if we get Kyle Tucker,
Hey.
if we get Kyle Tucker, I'm gonna stop asking for big name guys. Okay.
Yeah.
Ross the Boss would have a Hall of Fame offseason, but Brandon Woodruff, Shota Imanaga, 38-year-old Chris Sale next year. So,
Hey.
so if we don't develop a starting pitcher, or if there isn't an option come out of nowhere, we'll have to pay for one of those guys and probably overpay for one of those guys. So I hope that doesn't happen. But looking at right now, I think just signing Kyle Tucker for Man, I think MLB contracts are the coolest thing ever. We just signed a guy for
Yeah.
14 years. 14 years is a crazy long time. So if we're able to sign Kyle Tucker for say what, only 10 years, that's till I'm
Oh.
29, Aiden. That's till I'm 29.
That's insane.
Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is signed till I'm 33. So
Wow.
this is just crazy stuff, and it's a Hall of Fame offseason. If
Yeah.
Ross the Boss can find a way to get Kyle Tucker away from the TGL Golf League and to Toronto to play for the Toronto Blue Jays, I think that would be incredible.
Hey, yeah, he was at that match, right, with George Springer. Is that
Yep,
another
that's
recruitment
right.
effort? We're seeing El Mago, Tyler Heineman online, and Miles Straw. Like, hey, come over here. It's nice up north. I will babysit your kids for you. We can do that. We can arrange that. So just, you know what? Just get it done. Like, honestly, to think, can you imagine? Let's say it's 350. Say it's, I don't know, 400, maybe. Maybe that's the number for Tucker. $900 million between two players. Are we the Dodgers? Like, are we there? I mean, honestly, let's do it. We're gonna look back and realize how important this offseason was. Again, I don't want to look back in the past too much, but just think where we were last offseason. Andres Jimenez was our first move, and that was one of our big bat moves. And we're like, what are we doing here?
He hit
Anthony,
cleanup. First game, he hit
oh
cleanup.
my
So,
God. It's like, what are we doing here? Anthony Santander comes in. I mean, again, if he brings in like 25 home runs next year, that'll be nice, but that's not really the long-term piece. Get Kyle Tucker in here, man. Looking back, I think it's also last year too. We look at and it's like, well, he had an injury plagued season. Honestly, he wasn't good the second half of the season. He really wasn't. Incredible to start with the Cubs, but kind of left a sour taste, right? He was dealing with, I don't know what it was. It was a shoulder injury or some sort of upper body injury that he was dealing with, and he just never really got right in the second half. If you look back at his Astros days, though, I think it was back in 2024, which was one of his shorter years. It was like 70, 80 games, something like that. Guy put up like 25 home runs, like six B WAR, something like that. Look at some of his prior years as well. 2023, he's finishing top five in the MVP. When you look at this guy's numbers, this is a five-tool player we're talking about. Okay,
yeah.
this is where the separation comes from Bichette. Bichette cannot run. I don't know what is happening with the guy, but the older he gets, oh my God, he is slow. The guy can't move, and he's sliding into home plate, busting his knee. I don't know what he's doing. Kyle Tucker can run, first of all. Pencil him in for at least 20 stolen bases. That's fair, probably, right? I mean, maybe he can get up to 30. He has a couple 30 years in his back pocket. He's got the defense. He's not going to be otherworlder. He's not going to be Dalton Varsho, Kevin Kiermaier, but the
Yep.
defense is solid in right field. The power's there. The contact is there. The throwing ability is there. Get it done. Insert him in right field. We had Joey Bats before in right field. Then it went to George Springer. Make the next decade the Kyle Tucker decade alongside Vlad.
Yeah, and I think a problem with Kyle Tucker for other teams at least who don't have a superstar like we do in Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is can this guy be the Batman? Can this guy be the main
Mm,
piece on my team? And the answer to that is probably no. He like with the Cubs last year, he wasn't the guy. He
no.
wasn't. I mean that first half was incredible. Really good first half, gets injured, has a poor second half. But man, he'd be a great Robin. I think he's a great complementary piece, a great
Yeah.
second bat, and that's why he fits in so well here. And then you hear Dodgers this, Dodgers that. Or are the Dodgers going to swoop in and get Kyle Tucker? I think he's looking for a long-term deal right now. I do not think he's looking for a short-term opt-out pact deal
Yeah.
where he could opt out in 2 years or maybe next year. Um, and I think a large part of that is, well, look at Alex Bregman. Alex Bregman signed, I think, like a 3-year, $120 million deal with an opt-out after each year,
Yeah.
opted out after the first year. What the heck is Alex Bregman's market right now? There is no one in
I
Alex
don't
Bregman's
know.
market. Is it the Tigers and Red Sox? I have no idea. So that certainly hasn't panned out. So I think Kyle Tucker's got to be looking for a long-term deal. Just come to the Blue Jays. Just come
Yeah.
to the Blue Jays. Um, gotta stop saying this. I've been saying this for like 2 months, but boy,
Oh
you would
man.
fit well with the Toronto Blue Jays and um, yeah, it would be a sight to see. And man, next year's gonna be fun to watch. Even if we don't get Kyle Tucker,
Yeah.
super excited for the baseball season next year.
I'm gonna live in fantasy land here for a second and think the Tarek Skubal deal. This is crazy already that I'm mentioning his name, but is it fair to say like he's gonna be the highest paid pitcher ever? Probably. Does he get 400 mil next year? I don't know. Back-to-back Cy Young. Bank on it that he could be a three-time Cy Young winner. If he stays with the Tigers and he wins it again for the AL or wherever he ends up, he's probably gonna win it again. I mean, who's to say that he isn't, right? He's proven that he can be healthy. Say he's that $400 million deal. Only if we don't get Tucker this offseason, because if you're playing devil's advocate here, it's January 10th. It's like, well, if Kyle Tucker wanted to sign with the Jays, he could have done it already, right? Like we're way into the offseason here. So let's say they don't get him. Could you imagine? I think Tarek Skubal is a Scotty B client, so it obviously wouldn't happen now unless it's a trade. Could you imagine if they go out there and get that guy? And we're talking about the rotation, like, well, maybe there's a couple of guys that are unproven. Is he Savage going to be good long term? No, let's just get Tarek Skubal and insert that at the top of the rotation, and we'll figure out the lineup later. So that's if they don't get Kyle Tucker. I don't know. Is that something they entertain next season? That would be crazy to think. So that's maybe the backup plan if they don't get Tucker. And then even with Tucker, you know what? Fantasyland, screw it. I don't want to disrespect Bo Bichette at all. I've talked about him a lot and said that I want him back. There's a world where you can make it work. Maybe, like we said, Okamoto, he plays a platoon with Barger at third. I don't know. Springer, I think in that case, Springer would have to go. Varsho would have to go. You figure it out. I don't know. Is Kyle Tucker a center fielder? I don't know. Just make it work. Do it honestly, like the Phillies, for example. They're a team that made it to the World Series. They don't care where guys play defensively. They don't. They just mash. What does Bo Bichette do? He mashes, right? Kyle
That's why
Tucker's
they
good
don't win the
enough.
World Series, Aiden.
Well, I mean, yeah, fair point, but they got close enough. Neither did we, right? Neither did we.
Sure.
We didn't either.
Sure.
We got to game 7 further than they did. They made it to game 6 in 22, but we still didn't. I know we were closer than they were, but you know what? We still didn't. And how do we know that next year Otani's going to have some, I don't know, 50 home run season and put up a 2 ERA and win the Cy Young, and somehow they're going to get even better, right? So you have to do even more to beat the Dodgers. There's no guarantee we're going to have the same storybook run to the World Series next year. So yeah, it's fantasy land. I'm living in fantasy land a little bit here, but put Bo Bichette at second. I don't know, make the platoon work with Ernie Clement and Andres Gimenez at short and figure out the outfield. Anthony Santander's your DH, put Kyle Tucker in the outfield and just figure it out. And let's just rake. I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah, you mentioned Tarek Skubal. I don't think that's a possibility.
It's unlikely. It's fantasy land. Yeah.
Yeah, Fantasyland, Fantasyland. So the highest paid starting pitcher contract right now is Yoshinobu Yamamoto, which is kind of insane that a Japanese player got the highest
Yeah.
paid contract. It's out of Japan, hadn't pitched an inning in MLB, but
Yeah.
it's a 12-year, $325 million deal. Tarek Skubal could double that. I'm not even joking. Like
God.
it could be insane. This is the best starting pitcher I've ever watched, and boy, is he going to get a deal. It's going to be the Mets. It's going to be the Dodgers, just ponying up for Tarek Skubal, and man,
Yeah.
it's going to be a crazy thing to watch next year. Do I think we have a shot at him? No. In Fantasyland and
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and MLB The Show, yeah, that'd
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
amazing. But
What's Paul Skeens gonna get? We're talking about Scooble. If
yeah,
Skeens keeps up this trajectory what he's on, I don't even know what the world he's gonna get. If he ends up on the Yankees or Dodgers, which is probably likely, just kill me, man. Like, what are we doing here? Paul Skeens on the Yankees or Dodgers. And the other thing too, I will say with Bo, there's a meeting coming, I think, on Monday with Philly. If he goes to Philly or somewhere in the NL, at least we don't have to see him because that's going to kill me. That's going to eat at me every day. He's on the Red Sox or the Yankees. Like, are you kidding me? If he's on those teams, even the Dodgers, which we just faced, if he goes to the Yankees, I swear to God, I don't even know what I'm going to think. But just don't let that happen. Don't let that happen. The Phillies, Dave Dombrowski, just get it done. Honestly, put us out of our misery already and just get it done. We get Kyle Tucker. We're cool. Philly gets Bo Bichette. All right, you guys figure it out and we'll figure it out. But yeah, just get Kyle Tucker and just get it done. I think that's where we're at with it right now.
yeah, let's do it. Ross the boss, Mark,
Yeah,
pony up, give him
do
the
it.
deal he wants. Let's go.
Yeah. So let us know your thoughts down below. What you think? Should the Jays get Bo Bichette? Should they keep that going? We hear it's unlikely. Or should they go for Kyle Tucker? Heavy pursuit going on. Should they get him? Let us know your thoughts down below. Like, subscribe for more content. Stay tuned for a guest episode coming your way soon.
Go Jays.
Go Jays.